Hey, welcome back to the Malm Podcast. Joel here with my dad.
And I'm Rick, and we're glad you're here with us today. What's up?
We missed last week.
I wonder if anybody noticed.
I heard from thousands of people saying their Thursday was not complete.
Well, I'm glad they don't have my email address.
Yeah, their Thursday was not complete without our podcast. I'm just kidding. Nobody commented. But anyways, we're back. We're continuing our series based on a new book. I'm literally just wrapping up. I've been sending it out to people to test read it for me, called Hiking the Clouds, the 7 Waypoints of Mature Faith. It's basically the idea that based on 2 Peter, where he says, add to your faith virtue, add to your virtue knowledge, add to your knowledge self-control, add to your self-control endurance, then godliness, and Philadelphia, brotherly love, and then agape. And the idea is that I think those are things we always need to be aiming for in our faith, but there are certain seasons I believe God dedicates in our growth, spiritual growth, towards those specific things. And I think it's a sequence that's not an accident. Peter laid that out, and
Yeah, he didn't. What you're saying is he didn't just throw out random words. Hey, how about this?
Yeah,
one? It is a sequence.
And a lot of times you read stuff in the Bible, like, gosh, there's just a bunch of random, like seemingly random words in there. This one, it builds on each other. So that's what this book's about. We are now at the stage of endurance, right? So I chose the word endurance in this because the Apostle Paul Peter, he used the Greek word he uses. It's maybe translated as perseverance a little bit better, but I like the word endurance because it makes me think of an endurance athlete.
Okay.
People that run a race, a physical race, the spiritual life is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it right, you got to be in it for the long haul if you're going to win.
Well, they basically mean the same thing. Just endure tends to have more of a...
Yeah.
It's more of a word we're more familiar with.
It feels more victorious in the end, too.
Does it?
Yeah, an endurance athlete endures and then they get the prize, right? But perseveres, like, I guess I'll just suck it up and deal with this.
Yeah, just make it through.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the basic idea is that we all come to this point in our life where just like Jesus, we feel abandoned by God, really. I think it's when the transition happens between kind of a elementary faith. I talk in the book about the 2 stages of faith. And I think the transition in our faith really happens when between the original part of our faith is where we have a lot of certainty and assurance. And then there comes a point where we have to be willing to trust God even when we don't have certainty and assurance. And I think the dividing point is this endurance phase. I mean, if it's like right in the middle of, you've got virtue, knowledge, and self-control, endurance, and then the other 3, godliness, Philadelphia. So I think it's literally the dividing line between what a truly mature faith looks like is when you can trust God when it gets dark.
Yeah, and I was saying to you, this is the one that really means a lot to me because as a pastor, I've seen so many people that this is where they wash out. They're doing good. And, there's like that first session of faith or first section where it's all bunny rabbits and unicorns and God answer your prayers. That's what we always joke about. If you want your prayers answered, go to a new believer because God gives them whatever they want.
Parking spot at the mall. It's like there was no parking spot. I prayed and the Lord opened
and there it was, But there comes that point in time where it's sort of time to grow up. And that's where so many believers fail. And, I despise people who are, I despise people who are ragging on the church and, pastors and this and that. But I think part of the reason so many people fail here is because of us as pastors. But it's the nature of the beast. I don't know what to do about it because here's the deal. When we go to church, we just had floods in this town here. There are tremendous testimonies on the web of people who were saved. And I heard one of a 90-year-old woman who couldn't get out of her bed, and her bed rose in the house and went right back down. She didn't get out of bed, lived through it all. We love those testimonies. Those are the kind of testimonies you hear in church. You never hear the testimonies of the 100+ people who died.
Yeah.
So that's what we feed people on, because when you come to church, you want to be encouraged. You wouldn't want to go to church and hear all the testimonies of all the people that died and didn't make it, and the towers came down and I survived because I couldn't get my car started that morning. Yeah, but what about all the people who didn't? So by the very nature of church, we're there to encourage people, but we end up just feeding them on the stories of it all worked out wonderfully. the after the dark cave, after the dark night of the soul, when I woke up and survived this. And so consequently, some people get really shocked when things don't, the prayers aren't answered and things aren't, and where's God in this? And I thought I believed in God, but now I don't believe in him because he's not answering all my prayers. Make sense?
Yeah, that really is the dividing line. Is again, all this comes back to, are we growing in love? And one of the ways we have to grow in love, which is a weird thing to think, is we have to grow in loving God unconditionally, just like he loves us.
Yeah.
Again, God never does wrong, right?
Yeah.
Specifically says that, let no man say when he's tempted, I'm tempted by God, for God tempts no one. God doesn't do any evil, but we get our ideas in our mind about how God's supposed to, we got a good plan, God. Why didn't you operate according to my plan? And then he doesn't.
A lot of it comes to that point where you're going to decide, do I serve and worship him because he's God, or do I serve and worship him because he gives me goodies? That's the grandpa method. He gives me goodies. I love grandpa.
Yeah, which is the ultimate. That was the ultimate bargain with Job.
Yeah, that's what Job was all about.
Satan told God, well, he's just doing that because you give him everything. He's like, well, take that away, take that away, take that away. And it was fascinating to me that Job is the oldest book in the Bible, meaning we've been wrestling with that one for a long time.
Yeah. In fact, I read one guy, he said, one theologian, he was saying he feels like, and I didn't understand at the time, but I did later, he feels like the whole point of Job was to determine whether man was even worth saving. Because and Satan was saying, you're wasting your time on man because the only reason he worships you is because you give him goodies. You take the goodies away, you stop giving him stuff, and he's not going to worship you. And Job was the proof that no, though you slay me, what Job said, though you slay me, I'll still trust you. And so Job kind of proved that no, God can be trusted even if he's not giving you the goodies. Not doing all and not if everything's not going your way, if the doors aren't opening, and we think it's like the H-E-B or the grocery store where you walk up to it and the doors just magically open before you, and that's what life should be like. And sometimes there's knocking and there's pounding and seeking and asking, and so anyway, this one really resonates with me because I've just seen so many people who fall and fail. Well, when you hit times of trouble, if your faith fails, how weak is your faith?
Yeah, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small.
I was trying to think of what that passage
One of my
said.
favorite, most encouraging Bible verses.
That's right.
So what stood out to you on this chapter? Anything that you're like?
Again, there's some phrases and things in here. Like I think the first page of it says this phrase here, perseverance in the mystery. And I thought, well, that's really good. That's really what it is.
That's not too Yoda-like.
Well, it is see, my purpose here, folks, is to explain his Yoda phrases to you. I'm to make them practice and go, oh, now I get it. It's pretty Yoda-like, but
it's because this is the shortest book I've ever written. And when you're trying to write a 20,000 word book, you got to make the sentences tight.
Really tight. Yes, there's so many words in there. I go, what the world?
Perseverance in the mystery.
Yes, I like that because, again, I'm just going to, I don't understand it, God, but I'm going to keep worshiping you because you're God and I'm not. And that's really what this is all about. That's really what the whole Christian walk is about. But you don't figure it out till you get to this point. Because when it's adding to your faith virtue, then you think it's all about being good. Oh, I got to be good, got to quit doing that, And then when you never really conquer that. You're always kind of trying to figure the virtue part out. But then the next is knowledge. And then we think, oh, if I just learn another passage of Scripture and I got to know this and I got to know that. And so that's this whole premise of this whole book, in case you haven't caught on by now, is that once we have our faith, that's the foundation, but then you add to that virtue, your character. Knowledge puffs up unless you've got humility, which is one of the virtues. Mm-hmm. And so you add to your faith virtue, then add to your virtue the knowledge. But then all of a sudden, it starts going different, and
which is where I think this is where the crisis of faith really starts. And I don't think a crisis is bad. I think it makes you reevaluate. Yeah. That's why, one of my favorite mottos lately is never rob somebody of their suffering. Because, well, here's why. That just sounds so cold-blooded. But really, this is where Paul says we rejoice in our suffering.
That's very Yoda-ish to me.
Oh, but really, we grow the most in our suffering, which stinks. The Apostle Paul ran around, and they said in Acts, they ran around encouraging the believers, through much suffering we enter the kingdom of God. I'm like, oh, that's super encouraging, bro. Yeah, exactly. Thanks. But it's, we rejoice in our suffering, for suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. character produces hope. Hope doesn't put us to shame.
Yeah.
There's this idea that until you're willing to face the pain and look at the pain, there's no transformation, which is what the cross was.
Yeah.
Which Jesus didn't. The crazy thing is the only perfect man, he essentially didn't need it, but it says he learned obedience through what he suffered, which you go, what in the world? Like that's
Well, again,
that's
I don't
profound.
think it was the suffering on the cross.
I know we already argued about this before, but I think it's I think it's the whole idea of becoming, well, suffering is when you're out of control of a situation.
Yeah.
You know, there's physical suffering, but there's also emotional suffering. We were actually talking about that before the thing. You were distinguishing that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying is, you know, like in this chapter, you're talking about suffering, and the example you use is kind of an emotional, internal suffering. You went through a real difficult time and a struggle and stuff. And most of mine has been, you've experienced this too, but most of mine has been outward. Just people did me wrong, you know, people just stabbed me in the back or, you know, betrayed me or slandered or lied about or whatever and all that stuff, you know. And maybe that's the advantage I have of not being too terribly insightful.
Yes, that's because you're naive. I know when I'm going to get burned, so I ditch them before they burn me.
So I go through life real happy, and then I go, oh, there's another knife in my back. How'd that get there?
Jeez.
I got quite a collection. But I don't know.
I mean, suffering may be physical, suffering may be emotional. I think the worst kind of suffering is emotional.
Well, that's because you haven't had a lot of the other.
Well, I've had some physical suffering. I had to cut that cancer out of me and stuff like that. You know,
just life,
and it all combined together. But I one of the things I say in there is, I say many abandon the journey here, and I don't blame them. When prayers aren't answered, disappointment takes hold. When your illusions of controlling the ability to control God are shattered, it can undermine your entire worldview. You know, when God seems silent, despair quickly sets in. And I think in the first half of faith, we do get this little idea that if I pray it the right way, if I drum up enough faith, believe in my heart, he's going to do whatever I say. Ask anything according to his will, which is the qualifier that we forget what was his will. And it'll be done. You know, I'm going to speak to that mountain. And there's obviously a time to speak to the mountains, but here's my Yoda quote. Oftentimes the mountain is you.
Yeah.
So...
yeah,
that's where I think the emotional suffering comes in, and when there's a quote in here I say from Teresa of Avila, and she's complaining. She's like, God, you know, why are you so silent? Why are you not doing what I'm asking? And he goes, I treat all my friends this way. And she's like, well, no wonder you have so few of them.
yeah. I think, you know, when you say I don't blame them for that, you know, I get, I can understand that, but I want to slap them when they do that. I go, where in the world? Name one person in the scripture that had an easy life.
Yeah.
Name one. I know, you're more compassionate than me. At least in this area. I mean, I didn't used to be, but now that life has slapped me one side up and down the other, and I've run my head into some walls, I look at people and I'm like, but I also realize if you rob somebody of the suffering, that's where the transformation happens. So is that compassion? What is? I don't know. I was thinking about this and I was thinking, you know, I think I had an advantage in it because I came to the Lord during the Jesus People movement, and we were talking, you know, people, get ready for the tribulation, you know, and we were, you know, you're going to suffer for Christ, and we used words like brokenness. I haven't heard that one in a sermon in a long time, and I heard it all the time.
It's in this book.
Yeah, it is, because it's a part of the Christian walk. But see, I was indoctrinated with that at the start. So any day you weren't being stoned or burned at the cross, it was a good day. So we came into it expecting this. We didn't know that you could just name it, claim it, blab it, grab it, all that, you know, that you could tell God what to do. And we didn't know that. And so we just kind of came in it like, okay, he's God, I'm not. Whatever I get, then yep, it's icing on the cake. But I'm here to serve you because you're the boss and I'm the servant. And yeah, I'm your child, but you're dad. And so I think it made a difference, you know, in me, because I didn't come into it expecting all this. You know, I'm going to form my own reality by proclaiming to the heavens and, you know, speak to the heavens and they will obey or whatever, you know. And I'm not making fun of it. I guess
you're bordering on the kids these days don't get it, but I understand.
No. It's not these days. It's been about 20 years and 40 years now.
All right, kids these days think everything's going to be handed to them. Yeah.
No, actually, I think they do. I think we're having a revival among
We
kids
are,
these days.
because I think we're starting to get back to telling the truth.
Yeah, I think.
And the truth is, I mean, that's what all of this is about. Awareness. Faith is awareness of reality. And when you let people live in delusion, and the only way to break people out of delusion is reality runs into you, and reality bites eventually, and it bites hard.
That's what I said. That's what I meant when I said I feel like some of it is kind of we pastors' faults, because we want, when people come to Sunday, we want them to go out encouraged. We want them built up. And yeah, I think that's probably what you should do. You don't want them to go away depressed and discouraged. But at some point in time, they have to recognize too, hey, there's going to be a wall you're going to hit. There's going to be a time when it's not all going to be that way. And anybody can make it when the day is good and the sun is shining and all that. Is your faith really going to hold up when the storm is coming? And that's where we need to prepare them for both.
Thanks for listening. Please consider sharing this with your friends on the platform of your choice. For more from Joel Malm, visit joelmalm.com. For more from Rick Malm, visit rickmalm.com. Our podcast music was produced by Alex Burleson.